The relationship between science and religion has been a topic of debate for centuries, with many scientists attempting to convince Christians that God is not real. This endeavor is often met with resistance and controversy, as it challenges the deeply held beliefs of Christians around the world. However, scientists are not motivated by a desire to undermine Christianity or faith in general, but rather by a commitment to understanding the natural world through empirical evidence and observation. One reason scientists may attempt to convince Christians that God is not real is that the concept of an all-powerful, omniscient deity can be seen as contradictory to the principles of science. The scientific method relies on the idea that the natural world operates according to laws and principles that can be observed, measured, and predicted. The introduction of a supernatural entity that can intervene in the natural world undermines this fundamental assumption, as it suggests that the laws of physics and nature are not absolute, but rather subject to the whims of a higher power. Furthermore, many scientists view the concept of God as a supernatural explanation for natural phenomena, which can be seen as a hindrance to scientific progress. Throughout history, the attribution of natural events to divine intervention has often slowed the development of scientific understanding, as it has led people to accept supernatural explanations rather than seeking out natural causes. For example, the ancient Greeks believed that earthquakes were caused by the god Poseidon, while many medieval Europeans attributed the Black Death to God's wrath. In contrast, the scientific method has allowed us to develop a much deeper understanding of the natural world, from the movement of the planets to the behavior of subatomic particles. In addition, some scientists may argue that the concept of God is not falsifiable, and therefore cannot be considered a scientific hypothesis. The principle of falsifiability, first proposed by philosopher Karl Popper, states that a scientific theory must be capable of being proven or disproven through empirical evidence. However, the existence or non-existence of God cannot be tested or observed, and therefore cannot be considered a scientific hypothesis. This has led some scientists to view the concept of God as a matter of faith, rather than a scientific theory that can be tested and proven. Another reason scientists may attempt to convince Christians that God is not real is that the teachings of Christianity can be seen as being in conflict with scientific evidence. For example, the story of creation in the book of Genesis is often interpreted as a literal, historical account of the origin of the universe, which contradicts the scientific evidence for evolution and the Big Bang theory. Similarly, the idea of an afterlife, where the soul continues to exist after death, is not supported by scientific evidence, and can be seen as a form of wishful thinking. Despite these efforts, many Christians remain unconvinced by the arguments of scientists, and continue to hold strong beliefs in the existence of God. This is often because their faith is not based on scientific evidence, but rather on personal experience, emotion, and community. For many Christians, the existence of God is not something that can be proven or disproven through empirical evidence, but rather a deeply held conviction that is rooted in their spiritual and emotional lives. In conclusion, scientists attempt to convince Christians that God is not real not out of a desire to undermine faith or spirituality, but rather out of a commitment to understanding the natural world through empirical evidence and observation. While the concept of God may be seen as contradictory to the principles of science, it remains a deeply held belief for many people around the world. Ultimately, the debate between science and religion is a complex and multifaceted one, and is unlikely to be resolved through a single argument or piece of evidence. Instead, it is likely to continue as a rich and ongoing conversation, with both sides seeking to understand and appreciate the perspectives of the other.